In the ancient world, when mortals still feared the silent gaze of the gods, a child was born whose destiny would shake the foundations of history. Achilles was no ordinary newborn. He was the result of a forbidden union. Peleus, a mortal chosen by fate, and Thetis, a radiant sea nymph born from the sacred depths. From the very moment he took his first breath, a divine aura seemed to surround him, as if the heavens themselves were watching. Thetis knew the mortal world was cruel and unforgiving. She knew a child as extraordinary as Achilles would draw envy, danger, and the wrath of forces beyond human understanding. So she made a choice that would define his legend forever. She would grant him a body worthy of a demigod. One night, under a moon as sharp as a silver blade, Thetis carried the infant to the river Styx, the ancient waterway feared by both men and spirits. No mortal dared to approach those waters, but she walked with confidence. The river recognized its own. The air thickened, the world seemed to fall silent, and the dark surface of the Styx shimmered as if awakened by her presence. Holding her son firmly, Thetis lowered him toward the sacred water. Her face was a mixture of desperation and determination. The moment Achilles touched the river, a blinding divine light burst around them, illuminating the darkness with the power of the gods. The water wrapped around his tiny body like living fire, strengthening his flesh, hardening his skin, turning his mortal frame into something unbreakable. But in that overwhelming radiance, one detail escaped her. She held him by the heel, the single place untouched by the immortal waters, the one point that would one day seal his fate and secure his eternal legend. When the light faded and the Styx fell calm again, Thetis lifted her child from the water. He no longer seemed fragile. He radiated power, destiny, and the unmistakable mark of the divine. This was Achilles, the hero crafted by the gods, and the world, unaware of what had just been born, would soon tremble at his name. As the years passed, it became clear that Achilles was no ordinary child. Even before he understood the meaning of strength, it lived inside him like a fire that refused to be contained. His body grew faster, stronger, and sharper than any mortal boy. And with every passing day, the divine spark within him shone brighter. By the time he was barely 10 years old, his abilities had already surpassed those of grown warriors. Villagers whispered about the boy who outran the wind, whose footsteps barely touched the earth, whose eyes held the wild determination of a future legend. Peleus watched him with equal pride and fear. How do you protect a child destined to become greater than any king? Greater even than his father? Achilles spent his mornings racing through the ancient forests surrounding Mount Pelion. The trees bent slightly as he passed, disturbed by the shock waves of his speed. Leaves burst into the air behind him, swirling like green sparks in the sun. Each stride was a leap of impossible power, as if the earth itself pushed him forward. Though still young, his muscles were already defined, shaped not by effort, but by destiny. He wasn't alone. From a distance, a figure followed his training, the wise centaur Chiron, who had taken the boy under his watchful gaze. Chiron observed silently, studying every movement, every breath. He saw not just a talented child, but the emergence of a force that could shift the balance of the world. Achilles darted between ancient oaks, his hair whipping behind him, his face set in fierce concentration. There was no hesitation, no fear, only instinct, purity, and raw potential. Though he was swift beyond understanding, what made him remarkable was something deeper, an unwavering hunger to push further, to grow stronger, to reach the limits of what even a demigod could achieve. By the time he stopped, the forest had fallen silent again. His chest rose and fell, but not from exhaustion, from excitement. Achilles was beginning to understand who he was. Not just a boy, not just a miracle. He was the beginning of a legend. The day destined to change Achilles' life arrived quietly, without thunder or prophecy. The sky above Mount Pelion glowed with a soft golden light as Peleus led his son along the winding mountain path. Achilles walked with the restless energy of a young lion, unaware that he was approaching the one teacher, capable of shaping his divine potential. At the foot of the mountain's highest ridge, the air grew still, and an ancient presence seemed to awaken. From between the trees emerged a figure both powerful and serene, the legendary centaur Chiron. Unlike the violent centaur spoken of in fearful myths, Chiron carried an aura of wisdom. His form was strong, his eyes deep and calm, filled with the knowledge of ages. Achilles stopped in his tracks. For the first time in his life, he looked at someone and felt the weight of true greatness. Chiron studied him silently, sensing the fire in the boy's spirit, the raw strength waiting to be forged. In that single moment, the centaur understood. This child was unlike any he had taught before. He was destined for glory and tragedy. Peleus bowed respectfully. He knew he was entrusting his son not just to a mentor, but to a guide who had trained heroes, kings, and legends. Chiron approached Achilles slowly, lowering himself so that their eyes met. There was no fear in the boy, only curiosity and a spark of challenge. "You were born with power," Chiron said, his voice like ancient stone carried by the wind. "But power without wisdom destroys itself. If you wish to master your destiny, you must first learn to master yourself." Achilles nodded, almost instinctively. Something inside him recognized the truth in those words. He felt for the first time that he stood on the edge of a path greater than anything he had imagined. Chiron extended his hand, not as a beast, not as a god, but as a teacher offering a promise. Achilles placed his hand upon it. From that moment forward, the boy who ran faster than the wind would begin the hardest journey of his life. Not the battles, not the monsters, not the glory, but the training that would forge him into the greatest warrior the world had ever known. The legend of Achilles was no longer simply born, it was now being shaped. Life under Chiron's guidance did not begin with comfort or praise. The centaur believed that greatness was earned through struggle, discipline, and pain, even for a child touched by divinity. From the very first dawn, Achilles learned what it meant to be shaped into a legend. Every morning, before the sun crowned the peaks of Mount Pelion, Chiron awakened Achilles with a single command: rise. And Achilles rose. He ran through the cold forest trails, the wind cutting against his skin, his breath forming clouds in the morning air. Chiron made him sprint up rocky slopes, leap across streams, and climb steep cliffs with nothing but his bare hands. Each task was designed not just to strengthen the body, but the mind to break the limits Achilles didn't even know he had. When the sun reached its height, the real trials began. Chiron placed a spear in Achilles' hands, heavier than any weapon suited for a boy his age. At first, Achilles struggled, but each day he lifted it again. Feeling his strength grow, his movements sharpen, his instincts awaken. Under the centaur's watchful eyes, he learned the fluid dance of combat, how to strike, how to dodge, how to move like water and fire at the same time. Next came the sword. Chiron taught him precision, timing, patience. The blade became more than a tool. It became an extension of Achilles. And the boy who once raced through forests had become something far greater. Achilles now stood tall, his body sculpted by relentless training and divine blood. His movements were faster than ever, his strength unmatched, his mind sharpened by Chiron's wisdom. He was no longer merely gifted, he was extraordinary, a force that blurred the line between mortal and god. Chiron knew it was time to test him beyond simple lessons. He led Achilles deep into the wilderness, where danger lived in the shadows and legends took form. There, the young warrior faced challenges meant for seasoned heroes. Wild boars larger than bulls charged at him. Achilles met them head-on, moving with a speed that turned battle into a blur. Wolves encircled him, but none could touch his immortal skin. With each victory, Achilles' confidence grew, not as arrogance, but as the certainty of purpose. Soon, Chiron introduced him to the trial of warriors. The centaur summoned skilled fighters from distant lands, archers, spearmen, swordsmen, men who had survived wars and carried their scars with pride. Achilles fought them all. His spear struck like lightning, his shield moved like an extension of thought, and his feet danced across the earth with the rhythm of a storm. No matter how skilled his opponents were, Achilles overwhelmed them with a mixture of precision, instinct, and sheer divine power. But what set Achilles apart was not just ability, it was the fire inside him, a burning drive to push past every boundary. He wasn't content to win, he sought perfection. After hours of combat, when any normal warrior would collapse, Achilles asked for more, his voice steady, his eyes blazing with determination. Chiron observed with a mixture of pride and concern. The boy he raised had become a warrior without equal. Even among heroes, Achilles shone like a star that refused to dim. Yet beneath that brilliance lay the unmistakable shadow of destiny, the knowledge that talent so magnificent could only lead to either eternal glory or devastating tragedy. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, Achilles stood victorious on the training fields. His armor glowed in the fading light, his breath steady despite the battles he had fought. In that moment, it was clear, no mortal alive could defeat him. His name, though not yet known by the world, was already carved into the future. Achilles had risen, and once such a warrior stands, the world cannot ignore him. It can only prepare. The time had come. The boy who had become a legend now stood on the shore, the weight of destiny pressing upon him like the tide. The Greek ships rested in the harbor, their sails catching the wind, ready to carry warriors to a war that would echo through eternity. Achilles' gaze followed them, calm yet charged with an energy no mortal could contain. Behind him, Mount Pelion rose, silent witness to the training, the victories, and the trials that had shaped him. The forests where he had raced as a child, the cliffs he had climbed with unyielding strength, and the fields where he had bested beasts and men, alike all bore witness to the making of a hero. Every scar, every drop of sweat, every lesson from Chiron had led to this moment. Achilles' heart burned not with fear, but with understanding. He knew the war awaiting him would test everything he had learned, yet he also knew the truth whispered by the centaur's lessons. Greatness demands sacrifice, and the fate of heroes is rarely gentle. He was invincible in body, unmatched in skill, but the path ahead would challenge even him. The sun dipped low, casting golden light across the water. The wind tugged at his hair and cloak, and for a brief moment he felt the eyes of the gods upon him. It was as if the world held its breath, acknowledging that the boy who had once raced faster than the wind was now a man who could shape the course of history. Achilles took a deep breath, feeling the power thrumming in his veins. His gaze hardened, his stance resolute. He stepped forward, toward the ships, toward destiny, toward Troy. Every step carried the weight of prophecy. Every movement echoed the training of years. Every heartbeat resonated with the promise of legend. As the waves lapped at his feet and the sails rose to the sky, one truth became undeniable. The greatest warrior the world had ever seen was ready. Achilles, forged by gods, trained by legends, and tempered by relentless trials, was about to enter a story that would never be forgotten. The winds of fate had called, and Achilles answered,